Let's talk about two, briefly, of the fundamental fault lines running out there in the economy. You know, there have been economies that have lasted for very long periods of time, very successfully, with enormous inequalities. The Roman Empire is probably the best example. Somewhere between a third and 50% of the people were slaves. The Romans themselves were divided into classes, and you couldn't do certain things if you weren't in the right class, and they were very successful for 1,000 years. The problem, of course, is the Romans didn't believe in equality on any level whatsoever. The word basically didn't exist in their vocabulary, and it certainly was not a goal. Our problem is we believe in democracy. And so in the political area, we say one person, one vote. And how does that jibe with an economy that's moving towards inequality, which says we're going to have a much more inegalitarian distribution of income? Historically, the way we've solved that problem was by inventing the social welfare state. What the state would do is would make social investments in people, like education, to help them earn higher income. And if the capitalist economy didn't need you, you were sick, you were old, you were unemployed, you'd be picked up with unemployment insurance, pensions, etc. And so the state jumped in on the side of the people who weren't doing too well in the economy to say, we're on your side, democracy works for you. The interesting question, of course, is because of the elderly, we are withdrawing from all of those social safety net and social investments. The government is not going to be jumping in and saying, I'm on your side. And so then the question is, what happens as this gap gets bigger and bigger and bigger? And it's a little bit like the St. Andreas Fault. You know that there's going to be an earthquake, but nobody can predict when and whether it's a series of small little quakes or a big quake. Let me give you a second fundamental fault line. This is a fault line that has to do with this shift to man-made brain power industries. When was capitalism born? I know the exact year. 1794, and it has nothing to do with Adam Smith. It had to do with the invention of the steam engine. Because without the steam engine, you could not have capitalism, because as long as you depended on people power and animal power, it was simply impossible to have a lot of capital equipment in one place, which the capitalist could own, which we know as a factory. The steam engine made it possible. And basically, in a blink of an eye, we shifted from 8,000 years of agriculture into an industrial economy. Now, the problem, of course, is think about what we're shifting into, an era where brain power is the only strategic asset. How do you make capitalism work in an era when the capitalist can't own the strategic advantage because slavery is against the law?